If you're not already watching Cerebras stock, you need to start paying attention immediately, because this company could potentially create future millionaires. And if you actively invest in US stocks, then today's video is going to be very important for you. Today's video, I want to talk about a new AI stock that Wall Street has been paying very close attention to recently, Cerebras. Because a lot of investors are starting to ask one major question. Has the next big opportunity of the AI era already arrived? Because over the past few years, we've already seen just how explosive the AI capital cycle can become. If you had invested $10,000 into ARM when it went public, that investment would be worth over $35,000 today. And if you invested in Palantir back in 2020, you'd be sitting on nearly $150,000 today. But the company we're talking about today is even more unique. Because the AI chips they've built are something many engineers once believed were physically impossible to create. And now, the company has officially gone public. So today I want to break down a few very important questions. What exactly is Cerebras as a company? Why is Wall Street suddenly paying so much attention to it? Does it actually have the potential to become the next major AI winner? And most importantly, as everyday investors, how should we approach AI IPOs like this? Because a lot of investors see an IPO and immediately think, should I jump in right away? But the reality is, IPOs are actually one of the riskiest stages in the stock market. Because when many newly public companies first enter the stock market, investors are not really buying the financials. They're buying the story, the expectations, and the vision of future potential. And that's exactly why so many AI IPOs explode higher right after going public, only to experience massive pullbacks shortly after. Because the real question is not whether the story sounds exciting. The real question is, can the company actually deliver on that story? So recently, one thing I've been consistently emphasizing inside the community is this. Smart money never blindly chases stocks when market emotions are at their peak. Instead, they focus on timing, capital structure, and recognizing when market sentiment starts shifting. That's why many great IPO opportunities actually appear after the lockup period expires. Because once early investors and company insiders are finally allowed to sell their shares, a massive amount of stock can suddenly enter the market, and that selling pressure often creates extreme volatility. Take Palantir, for example. After going public in 2020, the stock surged aggressively in a very short period of time. But once the lockup period expired, the stock experienced a major pullback. ARM followed a very similar pattern. Market sentiment was extremely euphoric right after the IPO, but the stock still went through a significant correction afterward. But here's the important part. Over the long term, they still became some of the best performing AI stocks of the past several years. And that's why, when it comes to AI IPOs like this, the real focus should not be short-term market emotion. The real question is, does the company actually have the ability to fundamentally change the industry? And that's exactly what makes Cerebras so interesting. Because for decades, the semiconductor industry has operated under one basic assumption. Smaller chips are always better. The reason is simple. The larger a chip becomes, the higher the probability of manufacturing defects. That's why traditional chip companies usually divide wafers into many smaller chips. But Cerebras did something that almost nobody else was willing to attempt. They turned an entire silicon wafer into one massive chip. This is the company's core technology, the wafer scale engine. And to put it simply, if traditional NVIDIA GPUs are the size of a postage stamp, then Cerebras chips are closer to the size of a dinner plate. And what's the biggest advantage of this design? Speed, especially in AI inference. Because traditional GPUs constantly need to transfer data between multiple chips. But with Cerebras, much of the computation happens directly inside a single massive chip, and that dramatically reduces latency. Especially in areas like AI agents, real-time voice applications, AI reasoning models, and code generation. These are all workloads where response speed becomes extremely important. And that's why more and more people are starting to rethink something very important. In the future, will AI competition really be only about compute power? Or will it be about inference speed, AI response efficiency, and real-time AI experiences? Of course, this does not mean Cerebras is going to replace NVIDIA, at least not in the near term. Because what truly makes NVIDIA powerful is not just the chips themselves. It's the entire CUDA ecosystem, developer tools, software compatibility, and the fact that the entire AI industry already depends on it. That is NVIDIA's real moat. But I believe many investors are starting to overlook something very important. The AI industry may already be entering its second phase. In the past, the market focused on one thing: who has the most GPUs? But going forward, the market may care more about who can make AI faster, cheaper, and more real-time. And that is exactly the core story behind Cerebras. But at the same time, we also need to look at the risks objectively, because right now, Cerebras' biggest risk is not the technology itself, it's customer concentration. Right now, a large portion of Cerebras' revenue still depends heavily on Middle Eastern customers and a very small number of major partners, including OpenAI and AWS. And while those partnerships sound extremely impressive, but here's the problem. If the company cannot further diversify its customer base in the future, the risk level will remain extremely high. And there's another issue as well. Cerebras is not truly profitable yet. Yes, revenue growth has been very strong, but the company is still burning cash. And AI infrastructure itself is an extremely capital-intensive industry. Data centers, cloud services, compute deployment, all of these require massive capital expenditures. So over the next several quarters, there are really only a few key things investors need to watch closely: revenue growth, gross margins, customer expansion, and cash flow. Because these factors will ultimately determine whether Cerebras becomes the next true AI platform or just another high-valuation AI story. But personally, I believe the real thing worth paying attention to is not the short-term stock price, it's this. The era of AI inference may only be getting started. Because more and more AI models are no longer just answering simple questions. They're starting to reason, think, use tools, and complete tasks autonomously. And all of these capabilities require increasingly powerful, real-time computing performance. So the most important question for the AI industry going forward may no longer be who can train the biggest models. Instead, the real question may become who can make AI operate in real time. And that's exactly why I've been saying recently, the next phase of AI infrastructure may gradually shift away from training and move toward inference. And that could become one of the biggest opportunities in the entire AI industry over the next decade. So if you ask me, is Cerebras worth watching? My answer is actually very simple. Yes, absolutely. But investors also need to fully understand the risks. Because with companies like this, the biggest opportunities and the biggest risks often exist at the exact same time. Especially for newly public AI stocks, volatility is almost guaranteed to be extreme. So right now, my focus is not on short-term market emotion. My focus is this: can Cerebras truly become part of the next generation of AI infrastructure? Because if the company is able to establish a real advantage in AI inference, then the entire AI capital cycle may only be entering its next major phase. Remember this: Wall Street chases headlines, but smart money always positions around infrastructure. This is Kevin. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts down in the comments. And I'll see you guys in the next video.